we can say definitively that religions are all bullshit.
Welcome to Brainstorm.
We have the explicit tag for a reason.
This is a base level argument to a higher level morality.
I get paid to science?
To science as much as one can science.
What the hell was my point?
Trigger warning. The Brainstorm podcast will criticize your most cherished beliefs. We attack nonsense in all its forms and discuss difficult subjects. If you peddle pseudoscience, supernatural woo, or religious dogma, then this is not your safe place. This is the home of hardcore skepticism.
The capital's always wrong.
All right.
We're back.
To those listening live or to our patrons, welcome back. For those listening weekly, welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production that tries to educate and inform. We'll take current events and important skeptical topics and try to analyze them critically. Remember that we're live on brainstormradio.net. Okay, somebody cut him off. Remember, we're live on brainstormradio.net every second Friday, and today is January 5th, 2018. I'm still joined by Leo.
Hey there.
Angela.
Hello.
Lisa.
It's me.
Destin. And Rene.
Hello.
With the always amazing Dave doing sound.
I didn't actually mute Destin's mic there. He did it himself. So.
Self-muted.
Oh my God, there is a God. Fuck, this whole podcast is fucked.
All these time we were asking for proof, and there it is.
That's all we needed.
Happen.
Jeez, eh?
Can we stop interrupting Cory?
Oh my God.
Gotcha.
The water is wine. The water is wine, people.
I don't believe you. I'm going to start saying something really that I'm like a story or something, and you're going to start talking, right? Yes, he is.
Yep.
All right. So we don't have a bumper for general skepticism, but the first couple topics are just that. My story, I found when I came across this in my news feed on Facebook. It has some pretty obvious red flags, like the website is called exposinggovernment.com. And
isn't it exposingsatanicgovernment.com?
You mean a false flag, not a red flag.
Yeah, that's right. It didn't have the word satanic in it, but it was definitely exposinggovernment.com. I know most people know I'm, I guess, not a fan of the government necessarily, but a website that has exposing government, it's like the same thing as having truth in the title of your website.
Or natural.
Yeah, like these should be red flags. But I took a look at it. It is I guess you could say it's kind of a right-wing conspiracy website. So the article title was "Pedophiles to be Given Child Sex Bots to Prevent Them from Attacking Children." Before I go any further, I should point out that nearly everyone who commented on the post I saw was talking about how disgusting it was and how we should just kill all pedos and discussing this with any opinion that didn't have any nuance or anything to it. So it was very one-sided. Exactly the kind of thing you might expect from a right-wing outrage machine. But I wasn't satisfied, as one might expect. And judging by the website and the title, it seemed a little fishy, so I needed to check it out myself. First, there were a couple issues with the article. There was a video in it, but the video is from 2014, and the article was written in 2017, or December of 2017. And the video that was in question wasn't anything to do with anything that happened in 2017. It was discussing specifically a Berkeley panel discussion on robot ethics and was using information from a guy named Ron Arkin from Georgia Tech's Mobile Robot Lab, who thought that giving pedophiles a child sex robots was an idea worth exploring. That was all he said in 2014. It wasn't much to it. But this article was actually written about a guy named Mark Berendt of the ULB University in Belgium, and he was speaking at a sex robots conference in London. And his point is obviously a bit more nuanced than the article was presenting it as.
Wait, they actually have a sex robot
They do.
conference? So is it about sex robots or is it attended by sex robots?
Porque no es dos. Yeah, I'd say both.
Yes, it actually was both.
Wow.
There were plenty of sex robots there, and there were plenty of people discussing sex robots and ethics
Fancy
about
that,
sex
eh?
robots.
Haven't you ever heard of Japan?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have sex robot vending machines.
They
there.
actually, in my little search here, they were going to do it at the university, but they were worried about terrorist threats, so they had to change the venue to a secret location that was revealed after the fact.
It's interesting that
Toys R Us.
terrorism would target a sex robot conference.
Right-wing conservative terrorism, I assume.
Definitely.
You couldn't possibly have an experiment that would be ethical in terms of like measuring the reduction. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
Yeah, it would be. It would be a
No.
tough.
Like,
it would
how do
be
you do
tough.
that?
Yeah.
It would be so subjective.
How do you? I guess you could take a look at possible recidivism or situations like that, but
yeah, you could track over long term.
I mean, that video, I watched that one, and they were talking about the high recidivism rate. So
Right.
this is
a way to
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually have I can speak from actual practical experience with this matter.
Please enlighten us.
Because I've worked in corrections with sex offenders actually.
Right.
The main initiative that we found more effective than any of this stuff is the idea of having a circle of support. There's actually a group called Circles of Support and Accountability.
Okay.
And the idea is that when somebody gets let into the community, you have like a volunteer circle of people from the community, and they basically will become that person's like actual community members that they can connect with, right? Like, hey, let's go do shopping together. Hey, let's get together for supper. Like all these kinds of things like that, right?
Right.
That's right.
They integrate them into a meaningful community rather than isolate them, right?
Right. So, because isolation can bring out these kind of compulsive behaviors, right?
Exactly. So the idea that you would have to create meaningful experiences for them, and that's really the best way to curb curb recidivism.
Right.
And they have tracked this long term, actually, and they have had like tons of success. There was a chapter here. I haven't looked into it for a while, but there was a chapter here in town actually.
Interesting.
Doing that, and like it's not perfect by any means,
Right?
And I'm sure there's lots of people who would criticize the approach, and like you say, like let's kill them, lock them up. And I almost think that's a nonpartisan response, to be honest. I think that's like across the board, people just hate pedophiles.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Except in Alabama, where they almost elect them senator.
well, there you go. But they didn't. But they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
So the only point I want to make is that I think the idea of like giving them an avenue to which to act out on it, I don't necessarily think is an effective approach, given what has been effective the other way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you have to do everything to curb that idea, not let them live it out all the time, right?
Why don't we try electric shock?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh no, we did that with homosexuals.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
yeah, you know. So anyway,
Mental illness. too.
so I guess I just want to say that there are some effective
Right.
things that we're doing already that I think kind of counter this idea, but
No, that's totally fair. I actually approached this from a little bit different. Like I didn't approach this tackling the actual question of child sex robots. I tackled this from the angle of headlines that are maybe a bit misleading or websites that are kind of skewing things the way they want them to. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate your input.
okay, cool.
So I copied and pasted the title headline into Google, And I got a ton of right-wing websites, obviously, that actually all copied and pasted the entire article and didn't have any kind of any changes to it at all. I found one that from dailystar.co.uk that said, revealed child sex robots could be used to treat pedophiles, paid for by taxpayers. So that
Oh, wow.
pretty clearly a clickbait headline for conservatives and libertarians.
I'm going to have to hear that argument next time I meet my conservative uncle. He's gonna be like, yeah, that's actually happening.
Yeah. I looked up the Sex Robot Conference and see what was going on there, and I got an article
for research.
You've been red flagged, man.
You
You've been red
betcha.
flagged.
Research. So I got an article from RT discussing the upcoming conference, and it mostly just talked about the sex robots, not any of the pedophile, childlike robot stuff. After a bit more searching, I got into an article that explained itself in a little bit less inflammatory ways. It was from news.com.au, and it was titled "Sex Robots Could Be Used to Treat Pedophiles, Experts Claim." And this is all still off of just one dude, though, who has this one opinion, and he did have a talk based on this opinion, but even he had a bit more nuanced view than these things have come out with. And he has a quote like, "In practical terms, I think that child sex robots could be part of the solution in helping some very specific types of pedophiles overcome and manage their morally reprehensive and illegal sexual urges." So, I mean, that seems like a bit more nuanced. That opinion does seem to go against what kind of what Dave was saying, like where some evidence might show that it doesn't necessarily curb their urges. And he also says in his talk, above all, and this is probably the most important statement of my entire talk, the aim is to try saving as much sick people as possible from any form of sexual abuse. So my conclusion was that isn't about the sex robots. I don't have the information to make a conclusion based on that. But conservative websites are not a good, reliable source to get information.
I guess not.
And if the headline outrages you or makes you frustrated or whatever, if you feel like the urge to kill somebody comes out from a headline,
then you need a sex robot.
Then you probably need a sex robot.
Did you read that article? I hope it's not derailing the subject too much.
No, I'm done. So any input you guys have?
There was another article which almost inspired me to create a short work of fiction to read at the end of this podcast, that people are concerned that hackers can make sex robots kill you.
Sex ass and robots.
Sex robots will kill you.
Yeah.
Love bots from
Austin
Powers.
Fembots.
Yeah.
Fembots. So be careful.
The Terminatrix from Terminator, was it 3?
I can see why that might be inspiring for a fictional piece.
Yeah.
Because it sounds pretty fictional.
Well, people can hack and control your car. And a car is probably a much simpler...
Probably causing my engine.
Is your sex robot attached to the internet?
I don't know.
It will be at some point.
At some point it will be.
Because you're going to have to download add-ons.
Downloadable content.
New program.
DLC.
If you can get it for Fallout 4, you can get it for your sex robot.
I mean, if your sex robot needs firmware, make your own jokes.
3D printable parts.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Well, it kind of reading that kind
Wash with cold water.
Great. Now I'm flashing to like Archer.
Mild detergent.
Mild detergent.
No irony.
YouTube channels. YouTube channels.
Hang to dry.
Yeah.
What's that called when you play video games and you have a green screen behind you, so you're actually in front of the screen?
Twitch.
Yeah,
Is
Twitch
that
casting.
Twitch casting?
So that's Twitch casting with sex robots.
Casting.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can think of is another conversation I had with someone else where they're talking about VR, where they're already talking about how they might have to start policing like VR programs because people get into the really weird, kinky shit.
Interesting.
And there's this moral, ethical idea of if you start living out your fantasies, like whether it's sex robots or whether it's in VR, like, I mean, it's still fantasy. You're not actually killing anyone, but what if you're acting out these really twisted fucking ideas? Where does that moral line cross?
How is this not a Ferengi holodeck question?
You should watch the Battlestar Galactica prequel. What is it? Caprica?
Caprica.
Oh, okay.
Or Westworld.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about that.
Westworld's a good one.
Or remember those
Or
D&D
Deep
kids that
Space
were going to go
Nine.
kill everybody because they played D&D?
Yes, I remember
this
that.
This is exactly how that
That's-
shit's the same shit.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, but even with normal video games like that, I feel like this is kind of the VR, just a slight modification. If you have somebody who is deranged, like they can also act it out on Call of Duty or whatever.
Deranged
the fuck you
is
have.
deranged kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Although I don't like the word deranged.
The only difference is if the VR is good enough, they can get a lot of practice before they go on a shooting spree.
It's the bleeding effect from Assassin's Creed.
Well, military does use video games.
They do.
Right.
They do.
So
Training
for training
simulators
and
and
for
whatnot.
desensitization.
Yeah.
More for desensitization.
That's interesting.
Does the sex robot desensitize you as well?
So here's speaking of the military.
Yep.
Sorry, I had to bring it back.
Sensational.
That was good. That was well done.
Speaking of sensational.
No, military.
Military.
You're still stuck on the sex robots.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, there's military sex robots?
That's the next
If you're
step.
stuck on it, you didn't clean it well enough.
To distract the enemy, send them out ahead of the actual
I want
soldier.
a Thor
It's
sex robot.
G.I. Jane V3.164B alpha.
That's too long.
Yeah.
That's what she
It's
said.
got to be shorter.
To be honest, she's never said that.
And honestly,
Yes, she has.
Not to me.
now with half the population being women, and let's face it, we're always good. We're always happy. Aren't most of the sex robots going to be for women?
I want
Wouldn't you
a
think?
Thor robot. I want one.
Gigolo Joe.
Gigolo Joe.
From AI?
AI.
Yeah.
I say yes. Yes.
Who wouldn't want a Jude Law sex robot?
No,
Not me.
Not Jude Law.
Come on.
Okay, so I guess
Tough
that's
crowd,
out.
Tough crowd.
Maybe Jason Momoa.
You don't know what straight women want, do you?
Archie Bunker.
Some people like Jude Law.
I'm sure they do. Not me and Angela.
I don't know. For the first time in a long time, I think I was intrigued by him when I watched The Young Pope on HBO.
Yeah, he's good. He's
That
real
was interesting.
good. He's a pretty underrated actor.
Jason Momoa?
Oh, he's good.
No, we're talking about
no.
Jude Law.
Oh.
Jason Momoa is just pure bubblegum.
Jason Momoa is just exactly what you expect.
I don't know.
He
who
was
that is.
actually really good in that.
Khal Drogo.
No, Frontier.
Frontier. Oh
He
yeah.
is amazing in
Good shit.
Frontier.
Is that right? I haven't
Yeah.
watched it yet.
Haven't seen it.
Like it's dirty and gritty, and it's like it makes you really sad for being a Canadian. Makes you feel guilty because it's all about the fur trade and all the shit that happened back then. It's
I
really
guess I
pretty
should
brutal.
watch it.
Yeah, it's fucking good.
Pretty well made, I would say.
Good.
Bit of a transition. Sex robots, the Canadian guilt.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
Wow.
That's how we
Wow,
roll.
the Bible Belt.
That
right?
would be part
So-
of the downloadable content
Yeah.
of the sex
That's not
robot.
connected.
You go into Manitoba. There's some places where you have to have guilt for having any sex.
Steinbeck area.
Morden, Winkler.
My ancestor. That's ancestral home.
The triangle.
But damn, the food is good.
Oh, it is. Can't have a beer, but you can have lots of potatoes and cabbage rolls. And
Pierogies
Gravy.
and farmer sausage.
that's what she wants.
So are we
All the
done?
time.
Military. Right. The point I was going to get to, because this is sidetracking, and I'm trying not to do that anymore, but I've kept meaning to bring
How's
this
that
up.
going?
Whenever people are talking about, like, oh, help the troops and they should get treated better when they come back, why? Why do they deserve more? I've always wondered that, because it's a job that they signed up for. It's just a job.
Just
right?
the same way anybody works with any job deserves mental health treatment.
Yes.
No matter if you work. No matter if you work in the oil fields.
I'm talking about lifetime
or
fucking.
as a secretary.
If you do
I think
4
he
years,
shot at less as a secretary.
a lot of them are fighting to get like lifetime. What's it called when you retire?
Pensions.
Lifetime pension after working in the military for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so I have a friend who's in the military, and he kind of thinks along your lines, actually. He says, my job is dangerous, but it's not any more dangerous than a lot of people working on an oil rig or people have dangerous jobs. There's people who die on the job all the time.
It depends
Lots
on what era you live in.
I think there's something to the idea that we should be taking care of people.
Everyone.
When they need it.
Not vets, people.
Right.
Because vets are just people that had jobs.
So like so vets need lifetime pensions if they can't work afterwards. Okay, so the rest of us, after a certain time, need a lifetime pension.
Yeah, if you have any other traumatic experience in any other job and you become, you get to a point where either for mental reasons or for physical reasons you can't work, the same thing should apply. You should get the same treatment. And that's And so I wouldn't argue that vets shouldn't. I would say that everybody should.
What about would it just apply to people who had some sort of trauma due to their job, or if you were dealing with any sort of trauma?
I think the same thing with let's just say mental health. Just everybody gets it, no matter even if it's for your own reasons. If you've sat in your basement video gaming for a couple of months straight and you come out with some serious mental health issue,
Right.
Like the thing is just treat.
Treat
mental health.
We should treat mental health generally.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. Like, it doesn't really matter. Everybody should have it.
To a degree, we do have things like that. Like my brother has schizophrenia. He is on lifelong disability. It's not a lot. It's not where a person can live comfortably, really. But it is a thing that our society does for people with mental illness.
It's almost impossible to get.
Yeah, no, you really have to be clearly unable to work, and it should.
The assured income isn't as hard, to be honest.
Right,
assured income for disabilities that they have here in our province, like that's through the income assistance program. Like there is a lot of there are hoops to jump through, but I mean I adjudicated that or not adjudicated, but interviewed those things, and you would see some people get through who had very little going on. And I mean, rightfully so. I don't think they shouldn't get it, but it was surprisingly easy. But that's not federal. That's provincial.
Right.
So.
Sorry. Thank
All
you,
right.
Angela.
All right. So we still got another general skepticism. So Gumby, what do you got?
I came across this article, I don't know how long ago.
But we're not covering all of it, right?
No, because there's 16 different parts to it. It was off a website called fashionbeans.com. I have no idea how I found it. But it's
Fashion beans?
Fashion Beans.
He's Googling what's new and trendy.
I don't want to know what you were Googling with those kind of words.
It's well-intentioned acts that don't actually make anything better. And I've been guilty of a couple of these. There's one of these I actually don't agree with, but we all want to be better people and help the planet. There are several things we do with good intentions that actually end up being bad for the environment. One of them is using recyclable grocery bags, thinking it benefits the environment. That's one of my favorite ones, and I've always fought against this one. It'll eventually happen where having those reusable bags is better than using disposables, but you have to use it about 300 times before it makes a difference.
Because of the amount of manufacturing.
The process and energy that goes into making the bags.
So you're telling me that if I buy those bags and I stick them in my closet and never use them again, I didn't help the environment.
Right.
Okay.
What?
But
we use ours all the time.
But I would assume it also matters if the bag is made of plastic or not, right? If it's made of plastic, it's not going to biodegrade. But if it's a canvas bag.
But also, what about all the other bags?
Paper bags are 100%.
That look disgusting when you throw them out.
Paper bags are 100% biodegradable. Why don't you just bring paper bags to the grocery store?
They look bad.
That's what they recommend.
In Victoria, you could get paper bags.
You can get paper still.
They want plastic or paper. You just
Good old question: paper or plastic?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I prefer to have my groceries tear out of the bottom and all onto my driveway. So paper, please.
Yes, that's right.
Unless you're at a well Foods and it doesn't matter, your food's going to biodegrade before you leave the store.
That's right.
Volunteering to clean birds after oil spills.
People are fucking assholes. I hate those people.
Some people say that volunteers can do more harm than good. After the Gulf spill, thousands of inexperienced people rushed to go clean birds that were affected. They didn't realize that with the large crowds, the birds would often retreat further away and therefore abandon their nest and eggs and chicks, all of which were trampled by volunteers. Even with expert cleaners, the birds that survived and were released were possibly released into wrong habitats. About 90% of birds that get rescued end up dying anyway.
That's sad.
I would actually say that eventually 100% of the birds.
Well, eventually. as a direct result.
No, mic drop. Yeah. Show over.
Yeah.
You win.
I totally would have said
you won that
episode. That was one of the better comebacks.
That was it. That was it.
I get them every now and then. That's...
And you get them. That's good. That's good.
And his don't get edited out.
Using they're not racist.
Jesus, catty Christ.
The good ones get to stay in.
Yeah. Using biofuel to leave smaller gasoline-enriched footprints on our environment. Actually, if you use biofuels, it's worse for the environment.
Right, yeah. Biofuels, the production cost is ridiculous.
Yeah. There's only two more that I really wanted to touch on.
Are we going to cover more of these in future episodes?
Yeah, we can. We can go more in depth too. I just wanted to touch on
this could be a segment.
Sure.
Make a bumper for it.
Warm, fuzzy bullshit.
Don't even bother.
Don't even fucking bother.
Here's one.
Don't even fucking bother. Yes. That's it. That's your bumper.
Becky.
It's
got to be a Becky.
It's got to be a Becky.
Oh my God. Becky, look at her grocery bags.
They were so saggy.
You may take that
they
for your bumper if you like.
Paper.
I give you permission. My royalties are low.
Perfect.
Buying chocolate.
Buying all natural, healthy bamboo clothing to save the environment is terrible.
That doesn't sound comfortable.
The process,
Rayon.
completely negates the idea. In order to turn bamboo into textiles, they have to be crushed, ground, dissolved in lye, mixed with carbon disulfide, which is a neurotoxin, and then washed in battery acid and spun into fibers.
I've never heard of that. Is that
there's actually bamboo clothing. You can buy it online.
Okay, bamboo clothing is rayon. Rayon is made of bamboo. So if you see something is made of bamboo, it's rayon.
Oh, okay.
You can
which has been around since the
buy
70s.
bamboo yarn from the craft store.
Which, since it has been from the 70s, you know it's bad.
No, but
they just put
new
bamboo on it, and
they
then
just call
they
it.
jack up the price another $5.
Well, I noticed this when I was buying cloth diapers. It was like, oh, you can buy these bamboo diapers, and it's like, it's just rayon. I mean, they're cheaper, so I'll buy them. But like, no, like it's just don't call
I used to buy bamboo toothpicks, which they made sharper on the ends, and I always kind of was like, whatever. But I never imagined it helping the environment. I always imagined it as being like, okay, this is actually worse.
Well, bamboo toothpicks would be better because bamboo is just
processed.
A weed. Yeah. It's not a tree.
But it's still, I mean, yeah, maybe, I guess. Maybe there's not a bamboo deforestation type issue.
No. Actually,
it grows a foot a day.
Yeah, it's great torture things. You cut it off right at the ground, then you tie somebody down, and it'll grow through them overnight.
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Watch.
Did you not know that?
There's a MythBusters episode based on that.
Yeah, and they proved
look
it.
it up. Look it up.
And they proved it.
Did they kill someone?
No.
Yes.
Right on TV.
How did
they had a cast member who they didn't really like that much. So
Remember Tori?
Tori?
I was going to say we're going to need another Timmy.
My favorite thing with Tori was the bike incident where he flipped it right on the street. Anyway, the last one I wanted to cover is buying organic food because it sounds like it's healthier and great for the planet. Obviously, there's no evidence at all that organic food is better for you because all fucking food's organic.
What about orgasmic food?
Yeah. Once you take away
that's for a different podcast.
Once you take away the chemical fertilizer and pesticides, farming becomes much less efficient.
Yeah.
So non-organic farming is actually better. It's the same with buying your veggies at the farmer's market or from local producers.
Right.
It's actually worse for the environment because large farms are more efficient at growing those vegetables, even if they have to ship it. It's still more efficient.
But there's also there's added components. I would
like supporting local businesses.
But there's also a clarification on the economics of it. So if you have, let's say, a small farming town where the concentration of those gardens is much less, so the impact of a home garden on the environment is not the same as that same area of land in a big farm. So you can't compare the aggregate of all the small gardens as being one giant plot because they are not situated as a monoculture in one spot. So which is worse for the environment if you have 1,000 acres of tomatoes as opposed to having 1,000 one acre plots spread out over. But yeah, so you're right for most of it.
What they're saying is 1,000 acre plot of commercially grown tomatoes
is much more
will
efficient.
produce more than 1,000 1 acre plots. It'll produce the equivalent of 3,000 1 acre plots.
It's
more efficient.
In general, I would say yes, but it's also more complicated. Not necessarily in all things, but in a lot of things that is absolutely true.
What if I'm just like a snobby yuppie and I'm just like...
Well, then you're stupid and you deserve to be parted with your money.
Right. I just enjoy going there. I enjoy the process.
Then
I
you're
enjoy
the
people.
worst. Die.
And I find the vegetables taste a little better. And it's like I like to talk
Go
to
hang
guys
yourself some organic
I fucking
hemp rope.
made this mango salsa. And you're like, that's fucking amazing, dude. I'm going to buy some $12 salsa because that's fucking awesome. Yeah.
Is the transportation footprint accounted for there?
Yes.
Like transporting us from a semi all the way from Mexico to here?
Yes, actually, that's one of the reasons organic is worse because not every place is hospitable for organic farming.
So in Saskatchewan, if you buy organic salsa,
it's not as bad. But if you're buying Saskatchewan organic salsa and you live in fucking Vermont,
well, yeah, that's
or in Toronto.
What about that? Doesn't solve the problem of communities way up north that pay $20 for a jug of Sunny
I'm just
Delight.
talking environment. I'm not talking.
Yeah.
But I think this one we should mark this and go deeper into it. Gumby is right on one side of the coin, but there's also the other side. You can have a lot of industries where it is actually very efficient to do it locally because what David was saying, shipping in organic tomatoes or non-organic tomatoes from Mexico is going to be more inefficient than shipping them in from, say, Lumsden or something in the summer. So that it's not a blanket statement.
It depends on where.
And this one, there's
geography
actually
matters.
Yeah, geography really matters.
But when we're talking about factory farmed vegetables,
they're more efficient.
They're more efficient.
Like if we had a factory farm nearby that supplied our food.
No, even bringing it from Mexico.
Well, if you
but I'm saying that would be better than.
Well,
sure, but factory farmed tomatoes in Mexico, the environmental footprint is still smaller than it is buying it from a local producer.
What not
if it's not a commercial producer?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, certain things, yeah. So geography again, it matters. But if you take, let's say, you have a mass tomato farm, a huge tomato farm here in Saskatchewan, and the neighbors right here in Saskatchewan. So if there's no transportation involved, the bigger economy of scale, the big guy will always be more efficient. But when you ship them in from Mexico, you actually have to do the math on is it some will be, some won't be. But
there's going to be a lot of details in there.
Yeah,
that's true.
But what they're saying specifically for that, because I should have brought that out. I actually read all that. Is let's say a factory farm in Mexico that's shipping to Saskatchewan, industrially farmed tomatoes shipped from Mexico is still more efficient environmentally than something grown locally, because a person grown locally still has to use all of this shit to grow it.
Yeah,
and to transport.
You're talking about a local, not smaller farmer,
right?
Growing locally, right? Yeah.
Obviously, a local industrial farmer versus an industrial farmer further away. Obviously, the one closer is more efficient,
right? If you're
by the difference in fuel, that's it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Adam Ruins Everything did an episode kind of on this, and it's interesting to just observe the interconnectedness of all the different industries and all, like, what did they say? The zipper on the driver of on the uniform of the driver of the truck can make an impact that we're not calculating into everything. And it's tough to really figure out the actual full impact of all the things that we do from one end to the other. But with that, we will go to a quick ad break, and then we will do some What the Fuck.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/brainstorm podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/brainstorm podcast gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
The Hardcore Skeptic Examines is a bi-monthly documentary-style podcast that includes interviews, research, and commentary from your host, Cory Johnston. That's me. As the host of the Brainstorm podcast, I've spent the last 3+ years trying to spread critical thinking and skepticism while having fun. This project is intended to look at some of those same topics covered by Brainstorm, but a bit deeper. With the long intervals between episodes and the long format, I'm hoping to provide good information that educates as well as entertains. Check out my Patreon for more details at www.patreon.com/hardcoreskeptic or follow my Twitter at hardcoreskeptic.
Are you done getting your brain stormed?
We here at Packard Pokes At, we poke at beliefs, religion, news, and oddities from across the web.
Join us, along with occasional guest hosts from people in the secular atheist movement,
where we poke at all of this and more Friday nights
at vaughnlive.tv/Packard Pokes At.
Okay, Connie, are we done with this promo?
Well, how are they supposed to find us, Packard?
Oh, shit. I forgot about that. I know. They can find us using a compass.
No, that won't work.
Well, they can find us at Packard Pokes at WordPress.com. Where can they find us? Well, they can...
All the way back to Newark.
All the way back in Newark. Well, they can find us... They can find us at Packard Pokes at packardpokesat.wordpress.com, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube.
Just don't try the magic 8-ball.
Yeah, I know. I tried that last week, but all I got was try again later.
Fuck you. What the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking... How did you do fucking... Fucks? Fuck!
Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
I love that bumper.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Speaking of fuck.
Yeah,
what the fuck, Rene?
Speaking of fucking... actually, I clicked on this article because I thought it would be funny.
That's why you clicked on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Did it make you sad?
Instead of laughing.
Well, it's one of those things where it says how to use orgasms to cast spells. It was definitely not a how-to.
What's a used orgasm?
How do the hoodoo that you do so well?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's the idea that you can use the sexual energy to change your world. Basically, you're just jerking off. That's basically the summation of this.
And then you feel good afterwards.
Yeah, like a good line here is... harnessing sexual energy to make very real results. Sexual energy is just energy; it's neutral. So you harness that energy of the sexual energy, and then you can change the world.
Are you telling me that this headline's misleading?
Yeah,
it could be used to make yourself able to have a nap. Or
yes,
less stressed out about your day.
Yeah. But hey, if
able to cope with your day without killing yourself,
softer hands.
Well, I don't know. The one
softer
woman
hand
depends how often. I guess.
Hey, the one girl had a whole ritual about it, and part of it involved a crystal dildo.
Oh,
is it Himalayan rock salt crystal?
No.
Was it rose quartz? It was rose quartz.
Whatever gets you off. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
as long as it's not porous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it.
Yeah. Thank you, Gwyneth. But
Jade.
well,
Jaded.
see, she describes it as she was listening to her favorite erotically charged music, which in her case was glam metal. Motley Crue mostly. This is what she says here.
Erotically charged music?
Yeah, Motley Crue.
Is she writing this
Motley
from?
Crue.
Is it first person article? Like is she writing it from the first person?
She's writing it
More
from
like
1988.
Smoking in the boys' room.
That was before Vince Neil got fat. It's okay. Now, this was someone they interviewed. She was a specific person that dabbled in this kind of
Hot for a
witchcraft.
teacher?
Yeah,
That's Van Halen.
That's Van Halen.
Guys, you shouldn't judge what this woman likes to do.
Yeah,
That song can go to hell.
I'm not going to shame her kink. That's
No, that's wrong. You're right. I agree.
But then they touched on. Fuck, that's a loaded statement, right? But they also went in. How can I phrase this? They were talking about tantra as well.
They went.
Yeah, they were talking about. Yeah, there can't be too many puns there. But you know, there is a long history of sexual magic, but in reality, once again, you're just jerking off. That's all it is. So, you know, to use a Robin Williams joke, you know, you're having sex, you feel like a god, then you have an orgasm, and you look like goddamn Goofy.
Then comes the shame.
Then comes the shame.
I don't remember Robin Williams ever saying that.
No, that's other people.
No, that was Robin Williams.
Was it?
Yeah, 1986, live at the Met.
Hey, boy, you look mighty cute in them jeans. I love that show.
No. You're thinking, that's Eddie Murphy, man.
No.
Yes.
Wasn't that Robin Williams live at the Met?
They both have something similar to that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, Robin Williams doesn't do a thing about Mr. T. Anyway, there's a long history of sex magic. Some of it gets really, really fucking deviant, like Aleister Crowley.
So nobody's actually casting spells.
No, they think they are, but they're not actually doing it.
It sounds like they're using sex as an ingredient.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, wing of a bat and, you know, some.
Well, it's more along the lines of.
And mixing an orgasm.
Also have an orgasm.
Well, think of it along the lines of.
holds it all together.
You were talking at supper about meditation. This is kind of how they meditate.
That
you know,
sounds like nothing like meditation. Anyway.
Well, they kind of use it as thinking positive thoughts, I guess.
That's not what meditation is.
Yeah. All I'm thinking
Good
is
vibes only.
Babe.
Oh, he cut out.
No.
I woke up this morning, a sea was storming inside of me. See that?
Baby, when I woke up this morning, I felt like there was a sea.
I don't want to know what you were Googling.
That was Owen Wilson and Eddie Murphy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
At any rate,
voice.
there's long history, sex magic. It doesn't actually do anything.
What about blood sugar?
Well, there is something about blood in this article, but I didn't want to go into that.
That's a song by your
Periods?
favorite artist, Justin Timberlake. Love and sex magic. Oh.
The
No?
blood sugar
Nothing?
sex magic is by the Red Hot Chili
Yeah,
Peppers.
There you go.
That's where I was going with that.
No, you
Check
got to
this
go
out.
with your
Does
favorite
it talk
Justin
about
Timberlake.
periods in there?
Yeah,
does?
there is as part of sex magic. It's also interrupted. But they did touch on elements of how things like menstrual blood can be used as part of the rituals.
Right.
Okay.
A long history.
Wiccans do like to do their stuff naked, right?
Well, there is the skyclad. Yeah, they didn't bring that. They didn't go into that in the article, but that's part of it.
Right.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's one of those things where
slowly but surely through Vice and your exposure to it, we are learning more and more about magic and sex.
Yes.
See, this is what I do is I find all the most fucked up stories. I read them and realize
having sex with trees. That was
me. Is that there's a lot of fucked up people and they believe in a lot of fucked up things, and it's kind of entertaining. But I don't want to really talk too much about it because then I feel really fucking stupid.
And a little dirty.
A little dirty.
No, yeah, maybe. No, not really. There are other people who are dirty. I just laugh at it.
I'm not the dirty one.
I just laugh at it.
It's fair.
Or I don't feel as dirty.
Right.
I guess that might be the way to put it.
We each have our own.
But they did touch on, if you really want to look into really weird shit, you go into Aleister Crowley.
Okay.
I did some. There was a podcast I was listening to that went into some detail about his thing.
Well, he really pushed the idea of this sex magic.
Thing, eh?
Yeah, because if it was deviant, this man was into it. He was commonly referred to as the Great Beast 666.
Okay.
He did all the drugs and had all the kinky sex and did all kinds of weird shit.
Yep.
All right.
And then died poor, hooked on heroin.
That happens.
Yeah.
Hedonism is expensive.
Yeah. It doesn't usually end well. It doesn't usually end well.
No, not usually. It feels okay while you're doing it. That's the goal. Right?
I would argue that Hugh Hefner was the only one that managed to have a not bad ending.
A happy ending?
Hey,
I think we
speaking
were
of happy
that,
endings, I got to tell you this story. It's not a total diversion, but I was driving north on one of the city streets in our fair city, and tucked away just a little bit behind the rest of the buildings, there was a place called Come and Go Massage. I thought that was a really appropriate name for a late night massage parlor.
It's very classic. Yeah,
Yeah, I like
classic Regina.
Simple and to the point.
Regina.
Well, if it would have just said rub and tug, that might have been a little too on the nose.
Exactly. That's actually a good movie, by the way. Don McKellar, Canadian actor. Fuck yeah.
Come and Go is nuanced.
I know.
Right.
That's subtle.
There's you got to know what you're looking for with that title.
Yeah.
We could always make
Just about had an aneurysm I laughed.
we could mix this in and yet, throw in some crystals and shit and then just,
I'm trying
up
to figure
the class.
I'm trying to figure out where you were driving north. I mean, east, west on Vic, yes, but I don't know where you're driving north.
Yes, tell us all where the brothel is.
You can Google it. You can Google it.
It's on Winnipeg Street.
Oh, yeah, of course it's on Winnipeg. I always thought a good rub and tug would also be like an Asian restaurant, and you can call it...
I thought the best rub...
It's like a pulled pork that's been like... salt rub.
Broccoli rub. And just call it koalas. Or the koala. It eats shoots and leaves. Panda.
Panda.
Eats shoots and leaves.
Okay.
Can you combine food and sex? Is that a good business plan?
Yeah. Probably.
Almost 100% of the time.
Are we hungry?
Chocolate.
What does Chris Rock say? Do not eat the buffet at the strip club.
You remember the episode?
No sex in the champagne.
But he hates that one friend that he has who's got to go eat dinner at the strip club. He's like, nobody, don't eat the fucking buffet at the strip club.
Did you remember that
Everything's salty.
Seinfeld episode where George tries to incorporate food into his sex life?
No.
He does all three. He does
Yeah.
food, television, and sex at the same time.
Yeah. He reaches his face out from under the blanket and eats a donut. Mid stuff.
Jeez.
If everyone's cool with it, it's fine.
But then at the end of the episode, he meets another woman who's totally into it. And she's baked some fresh cookies, and they do it in the kitchen with fresh cookies and turn the TV on. It's amazing.
For being George, he sure got a lot of action.
I was about to say this, for being like the short, stumpy, balding guy, he sure, yeah.
So maybe sex magic does work. It just happened to work for George Costanza.
There you go.
But he also suffered for it. He paid for it.
That's true. The rest of his life was awful.
The rest of it was so bad, and even
the pool was cold.
No, but and every single one of those relationships also ended more badly than most of the other people on the show.
He's a terrible person.
Yeah.
No.
So he did pay for it, though.
In one of them, the girl died because they were getting married and she was allergic to the glue on the envelopes.
Oh, right. He was supposed to get married.
It wasn't that she was allergic. It was poison.
It was poisonous,
right.
yeah.
And he was cheap. He bought the cheap envelope and he poisoned her. But he didn't even want to marry her, basically. He was a miserable person.
He was.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right,
he
politics.
had a sweet message on his answer.
We have a bumper for that, I think.
Everybody complains about politicians. Everybody says they suck. Yeah! Well, where do people think these politicians come from? They don't fall out of the sky. They don't pass through a membrane from another reality. They come from American parents and American families, American homes, American schools, American churches, American businesses, and American universities, and they're elected by American citizens. This is the best we can do, folks. This is what we have to offer. It's what our system produces. Garbage in, garbage out.
So cynical.
One of the best comedians ever.
Do you think we can get him on the podcast?
No.
Talking about garbage in, garbage out. That's the perfect line for this one. The Washington Post posted an article kind of the
left wing garbage.
Fake news.
Fake news.
The fact checker, the whole concept of the fact checker and kind of giving some little deets on the overview of it. Turns out
my button's bigger.
After reading this
After reading this article.
After reading the...
Oh, you meant like a... Okay.
Yeah, after reading this one.
I thought you were saying something else for a second there,
Yeah,
Angela.
me too.
Honestly, I was like, whoa, TMI.
Don't need to know about buttons.
So after reading this article, I actually got a little bit of hope in humanity. Turns out that fact-checking was up quite a bit. I don't know if anybody else read it, but apparently the 2016 election from the 2012... the usage of fact-checking devices was up 500%, so like 5 times the amount, which, I mean... yeah.
Is that what 500% means?
Which makes sense.
And it made no difference.
It made no difference, but it means that people are still checking. And then just from last year till now, it went up another 20%. So people are actually checking shit online, which is a good thing.
That's good.
But so they'd had a little overview of some of the more notable things that people checked. So they looked up kind of throughout the data, which sites people visited, which stories people visited. So they compiled a little list. I'm just going to quickly read them and then we can comment on.
Happy little list.
Yeah. So the number one was that Trump claimed that Obamacare was very, very similar to his plan. That he didn't the new reform didn't actually change anything. Then there was the Trump's sexual misconduct charges.
Okay.
That was another one of the top searched ones. The Obama wiretapped the White House.
Lots of people were concerned about that.
And
I thought he tapped Trump Tower.
Oh, Trump! Yeah, that was Trump Tower. Yeah, that was not the White House, but Trump Tower. White House is always tapped.
That's right.
Yeah, CIA, motherfucker.
Yeah. And then Ted Cruz claiming that, and this, I don't know why this made it into 2017. I guess he must have made the claim this year, but that's the Hurricane Sandy from 2015 or what it was.
Never happened.
That most of the money that was budgeted towards relief was actually used for other shit. which is also false. That I think he was 2/3 of it was actually used for something else, was his claim, and that was something to make Obama look bad.
Of course.
And that one got 3 Pinocchios, which is I think it's out of 5. Wow. And then there's another claim that Trump, by bankrupting one of his golf courses, increased Puerto Rico's debt by $33 million, which is partially true, but they were already in a big fucking debt. And
they were already in
33 million.
Fucked, it doesn't matter.
No, 33 million is pocket change, compared to what their debt actually is. So, but and then the whole Bowling Green thing. I don't know.
The Bowling Green.
I had successfully forgotten about that shit until I read this. I'm like, for fuck's sakes, why is this in here? But I was like, okay, that deserves to be in there. And then,
never forget Bowling Green.
And then number 9 on the list was the whole uranium thing with that Hillary Clinton sold the U.S. for some uranium shit.
That was a big news thing.
And that one was like not definitive, like not. It was not completely false, but also, just the way misrepresented in a very, very
there was
big
truth
way.
to it. but there's a whole lot of bullshit. Like,
there was so many details missed that.
Yeah, that was basically a misrepresentation of all of it, where you couldn't believe any of what was being said because it was all just so.
Hillary Clinton was one of 9 on that board.
Right.
And then, last but not least, the whole voter fraud claims that was on there. But yeah, so those are some of the more notable things that people searched.
Which aren't notable things.
It is notable that people search them. Like I personally would like to give a little bit of a shout out to all those to the PolitiFact and Snopes and whatever else. People should use that shit. Yep. You might think you're super smart, but use it. It's actually very, very helpful. If you have doubts about a story, look it up. It's most likely on there.
Yep.
Sure. It's just that the most searched things are kind of dumb.
That is true. A lot of it's very dumb, but Snopes, if you actually look at how much shit they put out, they do so much.
Everything. Yeah.
There's the Canadian one. What's that one called? That's the something politics.
PolitiFact?
That's not. There's a Canadian. No. Oh shit! I should have done my homework. There is a Canadian one. I want to say it has an I in it, like I something politic.
No. You know what? You're more informed than the rest of us.
It's not the Politburo, because that's in Latvia.
Yeah, that's
no
Russian.
potato.
If you can't remember, the rest of us don't know.
But there is a Canadian one. If you Google the Canadian fact-checking thing, it'll pop up. But that's all I had to say about that.
No, that's perfect. Some of that stuff, it's funny that it even got out there, right? Like, how is the Bowling Green Massacre an error that somebody makes in a public space?
How is it that there was so much other bullshit that we almost forgot about the Bowling Green Massacre?
Yeah, that's right.
And just the fabrication of a domestic terrorist event that you could still find, probably like upwards of 25% of the U.S. population actually believing, oh yeah, Bowling Green actually happened.
Yeah.
And it is something that's completely fabricated. It is, it's a fairy tale, and people still believe it, but I guess we just need more fact-checking things for
those people.
Don't check fact.
Are likely the ones that believe that, those actors were that they actually had actors.
25% of people believe that a pizzeria with no basement actually had a basement. Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that wasn't in the list.
Right,
I thought Pizzagate was going to make it, but it's not.
It doesn't have a basement anymore.
That's right. They filled it in real fast.
Facts can.
That happens.
Facts can.
Well, I mean, how long how long after 9/11 did they all think that?
Which 9/11?
Yeah, what 9/11?
No, which one?
Yeah,
because Trump was elected on September or on November 9th.
That was 8th.
Was it?
By the time it was announced, it was
September the 11th.
It was announced on the 9th.
Yes. Right. So but that would be 11/9, wouldn't it?
No, not if you do it properly. It should go day, month, year.
Yeah, that's
agreed.
Well,
the way
they do the 9/11, if you're going to follow that formula.
It's because America.
That's American.
Yeah. Just like one of the only countries in the world that uses Fahrenheit.
Yeah, but
like morons.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Or
is our listener American?
Yeah.
We have lots of listeners who are American.
Well, we have more than one listener.
Yeah, we do, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but those listeners,
not live,
those listeners would agree
recorded.
that Fahrenheit is stupid.
Yeah.
We have a
they're
patron
smart enough to listen to
from Sweden, I think.
Sweden's awesome.
And
they use the metric system. Yay.
And what's her name in Australia?
Somebody.
Claire. No.
Was it?
Holy
we have somebody in Australia.
Angela. No shit.
We have we actually have, I think, 16 listeners in Australia.
Yeah. I was trying to think of a specific one.
That's because it's the only time they get to listen and make fun of someone else's accent. That's the only reason.
What's that?
We have over 1,000 listeners now.
Well, per episode, we have 200 and some.
Yeah.
We just hit 40,000 downloads, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yay for us.
And since we are the runners-up for the best...
Yes, the Skeptical Meme Society's runner-up for best skeptical podcast.
Which is actually a really cool deal because that community is 180,000 people strong.
Wow.
So if we can get 10% of them,
and this is
that's
the
an extra
second
10
best
people.
that the community can do.
Yeah, the other one's been around for a decade.
They really appreciate us because we...
talk over each other and interrupt each other and derail our conversations.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't read shit.
I'm totally uninformed.
It's probably because I'm friends with like most of the admins for that page. But
it's not who you know; it's who you. Never mind.
Don't disclose that.
No, we're good. We're good. We do fact checking things, and we're
entertaining. We're fucking entertaining.
We even have a secondary podcast dedicated to fact checking.
There we go.
You record on something other than a headphone set.
It's because our audio is so good. That's why.
Thank you, Dave.
I say full credit. Thank you. Thank you.
We sound professional even though we're not.
Yeah.
That's a tagline right there. Brainstorm. We sound professional even though we're not. Problem solved.
We do need new audio clips for the intro. We do need to redo our audio clips for the intro. I think we mention that every time we do an episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, if somebody else had time to do it, that'd be great.
I don't have a
what
full-time
we
job.
lack in professionalism, we make up for in delicious sound.
Delicious
sound. That's an audio clip.
There you go. What's the timestamp on that?
2 hours in.
There you go. 2
hours in.
2 hours in.
What's the tramp stamp on that?
I'm not showing you that.
We're only 2 hours in?
Oh, wait, no, sorry. 2.5.
2.5.
2.5, because we have 30 minutes left. So there you go.
All right,
and people
Lisa.
are like 2.5 hours.
That means that the rest of the up until feedback and such is going to you.
Oh, fuck. Okay. No, wait. Doesn't Angela need her magicalness?
She's after the feedback and stuff. She's our new closing segment this week.
I love Angela so much. She's so good at everything. Anyways.
I don't know. I'll tell you later.
Okay, let's attempt to put the train back on the tracks.
We'll plant a flag there for Pillow Talk.
Put a pin in it. For Pillow Talk, you got it.
Okay. So, my article is
There's
from
a sex spot for that.
We don't have to do this if we don't. Do you want me to do this? Okay.
Yes, do this one.
I'm so proud because I read my article like days ahead of time. Okay.
She doesn't remember any of it, but she read it.
I'm going to start this like Gumby. I found this article when I read through the show notes, and Cory told me to cover this article.
Actually, Gumby sent me his article.
I know, but I'm saying how I found my article. I found it in the show notes that Cory made for me and said, Lisa, click on this link and fucking read this 5-minute article. And I'm like, I'm going to read it. I feel so good about myself. No, I felt great about myself. Anyways, so this is from scientificamerican.com. The article is called Men Resist Green Behavior as Unmanly. Tagline, a surprising reason for resistance to environmental goods and habits by Aaron R. Brough and James E.B. Wilkie, December 26, 2017. Okay, so basically the article is talking about how women generally take more environmental action than men. Women litter less, recycle more, and leave a smaller carbon footprint. Some researchers have suggested that personality differences such as women's prioritization of altruism may help explain this gender gap. But they're talking about their own reason, for an additional possibility. Men may shun eco-friendly behavior because of what it conveys about their masculinity. So I did actually click on the article, like the link where they talked about their research. And so I guess it's like a meta-analysis of 7 different research studies.
Okay.
It's not that men don't care about the environment. They tend to want to feel macho, and they worry that eco-friendly behaviors might brand them as feminine. So, for example, they looked at 2,000 American and Chinese participants. Both men and women apparently judge eco-friendly products, behaviors, and consumers as more feminine than their non-green counterparts. So, for example, members of both sex described anyone who uses a reusable canvas bag, which isn't even that environmentally friendly anyways, but those who do use them apparently will describe those people as more feminine than somebody who uses a plastic bag.
Yeah,
so both men and women
I'm pretty feminine.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like both men and women
What color is it?
We'll say that.
There's a light blue one. There's a bunch of black ones. There's a pink one.
Yeah, you're definitely a girly man.
Okay.
In a different study, they use, I think they were describing 7 of their own studies. They threatened the masculinity of male participants by showing them a pink gift card with a floral design and asking them to imagine using the card to purchase either a lamp, a basket, or a backpack, or batteries. Threatened men were more likely to choose, I don't know how they decided who was threatened. Threatened men were more likely to choose non-green rather than green versions of each item. So like the idea, so they theorize theorize that they are trying to reassert their masculinity through non-environmentally friendly choices. Like, you're going to make me buy a lamp with a frilly card, I'm going to buy something that's not eco-friendly.
Does it mention, because the thought of the title makes me think of the guys who roll coal.
That was supposed to go in mind.
They don't mention rolling coal, but I think it's the same sort of idea. Like, fuck the environment, I'm going to fucking...
Right,
yeah,
I'm a man. I drive a truck that spews gas into the air.
Although admittedly, the rolling coal is more like, fuck you, Obama.
Right.
I need a new tattoo. I'm thinking barbed wire.
Yeah, so...
Just barbed wire.
Just barbed wire. Where? I don't care.
A couple tribal ones, too.
Put it on there. Tribal barbed wire. Tribal wire.
It does seem true that if you're going to do gender crossing gender roles, it seems like it's in our culture it is easier to do it. Like, it's easier for women to do it than for men. Like I don't know.
You're assigning gender.
Huh? What are you saying? No, never mind. I don't want to give you a chance to talk. Never mind. Don't talk. Don't talk. Like I could wear whatever, like typically masculine clothes. I could wear like whatever. I don't know what would be masculine. I could wear a suit jacket and pants or whatever, and nobody blink an eye. But if Cory wore a dress, it might cause people. Well, it would just be and I mean it's anyways. Yeah. It points that out that it's kind of men are more sensitive to going to looking feminine in our society than women are, I guess.
Because femininity is bad.
So then. Yes, being a woman is terrible. It's the worst thing.
You know what? If I could get away in the summer with wearing a skirt and open-toed sandals to work, I would. You know why? Because I'd be way more comfy than sweating my balls off in a pair of heavy
If
pants.
it's not a kilt, you can't do it, though.
Oh, I'm sure he could pull off a moo-moo.
If Homer can.
Your customers would love that shit. You sell so many fucking cars.
That's a terribly mean joke.
You know what? Nothing sells diamond coats like moo-moos. It's true. Okay, so then the article...
Just be a Buddhist monk.
Oh, yeah.
By day.
Toga.
You can wear a toga. You should do it.
Or you could be a Judas priest. Buddhist priest.
All right, now you're banned.
That wasn't even a pun. That was just terrible.
Come on.
So then the article takes a little bit of a turn that I don't know. It kind of made me go...
You didn't follow necessarily?
Well, I'll just read it. So what can pro-environmental marketers do to buffer against the threat posed to men by the green feminine stereotype? First, eco-friendly marketing messages and materials can be designed to affirm men's masculinity and give them the confidence to overcome their fear of being judged as feminine when engaging in green behavior. For example, in one
environmentally friendly turbo extreme
edition. That's basically what they're saying.
It will give you muscles.
So for example, in one experiment,
on top of your muscle,
men who received feedback affirming their masculinity were more interested in purchasing an eco-friendly version of a cleaning product. Men who feel secure in their manhood are more comfortable going green. Second, green products and organization can be marketed as more men-friendly, more masculine fonts, colors, words, and images. It's like, instead of getting instead of like trying to get
Windex,
people just get over this idea of like a green font
more,
being
you get a third X.
It's retarded.
Sorry, it just reminded me of this. I haven't listened to this in like 8 years.
What are you waiting for? What if everything you ever wanted came in a rocket can? Power Thirst Rocket Edition.
So that's what they need to do with environmentally friendly stuff.
That's actually basically what they're advocating, and they never made any mention of trying to just get people over the idea that whatever going green is somehow feminine. Like it's anyways. I found their solutions a little bizarre.
Right, rather than dealing with the fact that this is some sort of strange masculine idea.
Yeah,
they market to it.
Yeah. They're just like, well,
everything's shaped like a gun.
Yeah, basically. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. What's that Carl's Jr. commercial where they have like the girl eating a hamburger on a truck on a boat,
that's right.
like
Put
on
a naked
an
lady
ocean
on it.
liner. Like that.
Yeah.
Energy.
That kind of, that
Put a
shows the
naked
point of
lady
this.
on it. And yeah, for real. So there you go.
Yes.
Save the environment with nudity.
I mean, and this is a suggestion by actual people.
What if we just educate people so that they know that this shit's better?
What?
And we just make humanity better.
I guess that's what makes me...
hippie. That doesn't work.
Apparently, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is work published in the Journal of Consumer Research. You know, like, it's actual...
It's interesting, yeah.
Researchers actually advocating... I find it bizarre.
I mean, I don't disagree. It seems completely logical that the kind of shit that they're describing might actually be part of why...
Yeah.
A lot of people prefer, like, the whole joke about people driving big trucks have small dicks, kind of that joke is kind of directly related to that idea.
So if men want everyone to think they have a giant penis, shouldn't they all be driving, like, smart cars?
Well, the joke is the other way.
Yeah.
So I know, because everyone thinks you have a giant truck, you have a small dick, therefore, smart car, giant penis.
Well,
just saying.
Yeah, but if you
the
drive a small
doesn't work that way.
Well, I've tried making that joke because I drive a small ass little car, and so I've tried making that joke. I was like, I drive a very small car.
It doesn't kind of work. It doesn't work as well if you roll up in your smart car and, hey, baby, what's going on? That doesn't work as well.
As driving your mid-sized family sedan.
But that's the whole thing about the psychology.
What's wrong with the sedan? I like my family sedan.
It's a good size.
It's a good size. It works.
Buy a Mazda. They're on sale now.
I've always guaranteed 9 inches in 3 easy installments. That's one of my favorite jokes.
Like back to back?
Are they consecutive?
Consecutive installments?
15 minutes.
No. Over a series of months.
Every 3 months.
Gotta get that energy back.
Might have to practice some sex magic.
This reminds me of Russell Peters saying he doesn't have a schlong, he has a schlort.
Okay.
You came for the education, you're going to have to stay for the dick jokes.
That's right. That's how it goes.
This story was eventually heading that way.
Are you listening to this podcast with your child in the car? Well, fuck you.
You're a bad parent.
That was a bad idea.
Yeah. If you made it past the crystal dildo.
If you're listening to this, you had bad parents.
That's also a really good T-shirt.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Okay.
Oh, fuck.
So we're gonna go into some listener feedback. I got a lot of feedback from the recent chat with an anti-feminist, and there's too much to actually go into. Some folks provided me with a ton of like reading from studies and papers discussing theories within feminism and like evidence-based stuff from feminism. And some folks just wanted to tell me what they thought and how I did as an interviewer or debater or whatever it was.
Are you a master debater?
No, far from a master debater. A lot of people thought that it went well, but with ideological anti-feminism, it's tough to get through the misinformation and Gish Gallop. So I'm going to read one comment, and it's from the Utah Outcasts on our Patreon page. And he says,
"You're awesome."
No. Gotta say, Cory, you were way too cordial with Morally Gray. There were a few times you let him get away with non sequitur statements and whataboutism. I know that it's hard to think sometimes when faced by someone who is abjectly the opposite of how you think, but your inner Canadian let him slip with stuff that you should have called him out on the spot for. Take, for instance, his suggesting that you go in perfect blackface a la Rachel Dolezal to get the experience of a person of color. I still really enjoyed the episode, and I give you credit for engaging in people I refuse to give a platform to. I checked out some of the comments on I assume on his YouTube page, and it felt like a whole bunch of them think that you're brainwashed into a religion. So I thought that was a good comment and kind of represented what a lot of people said was that
X?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, but seriously, I don't think it's fair to criticize, to say, oh, you were shitty at interviewing him like Canadians would be. Like that's the only thing that I'm just,
yeah, we're not nice, motherfucker.
Yeah, so
come up here
fuck
and say
you. Your Canadian racism.
That Canadian standoff commercial going around is not helping us at all.
No, that's right.
They just keep apologizing and trying to pay for each other.
Do you know how many times we have the Canadian standoff at work with the door?
It's real.
Like I'll open it for a customer, but he's already trying to open it for me, and then we both apologize. The door swings shut. We just look at it awkwardly, and then we both reach for it at the same time. And eventually we both just walk away from the door and don't use it.
That's actually true. It is true. It's a true thing.
I like to think of it as my my humility and my willingness to listen to people, but
you're extremely humble.
I'm just saying, if Cory's shit, it's not because he's Canadian, okay?
Yeah.
He's just shitty. It's not Canadian.
Yeah, it's not because he's Canadian. It's because he sucks at what he does.
It's just because I suck at what I do.
It's like all Canadians.
Like all Canadians. That's right.
All Canadians suck at what Cory does.
Yeah. Well, that's actually probably not that far off. A lot of Canadians probably suck at what I do.
Yeah. Gravity, water.
Yeah.
Not going to the gym.
Not going to the gym.
Complaining about not going to the gym on Facebook.
Actually, no, I don't suck at not going to the gym. I'm really good at not going to the gym. In fact,
But you suck at complaining about not going to the gym on Facebook.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, back on track.
I never see him complaining about that. You're the worst. Okay.
Well, this has been an interesting show so far.
So, first one of the year.
Yeah.
Woo.
Worst show of the year.
Yeah.
And best.
Patreon. No. So Patreon got their shit together and pulled back on their weird charging scheme.
Yeah. They apologized.
So for now we're sticking with Patreon, and everything is set to be charged per episode.
Because Cory's too lazy to change it.
Well, I did change it, but then I changed it back. So if you increased your donation, then make sure to check the little box and say, only charge me once per month. Or one time per month. We didn't have the script ready when Gumby hosted the show, but like 100%. But Bassett became our new patron right before that.
Oh, cool.
So I want to thank Bassett for being our newest donator. And it's super cool that people think what we do is important enough to give us money.
Especially the people on the podcast.
Yeah. Super cool.
Sorry.
So I want to thank our top patrons, Lachlan, Daryl, Aaron, Lisa, and Positively Skeptical, as well as Bassett, obviously.
And we're not going to thank Gumby Sucks or Destin Sucks.
Not yet.
No.
That comes later.
No.
That comes
Not even then.
Yeah, no. It does come later. I have to say Destin Sucks. It's just...
Oh, okay.
This podcast is all about truth.
That's the other one, not this one.
So we did get a new review on the iTunes store in the U.S. store from Aaron the Rabbi.
Nice.
I'll give you a guess who that is.
That was nice of him.
He gave us 5 stars.
That's not a very Jewish name there, Aaron.
He says it's titled Canatheist Fun Times. Love these folks. Great mix of cultural, political, and philosophical discussions. Always feels fresh and relevant. So we got somebody smart who listens to us.
Fresh and relevant.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He was really good when we had him on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that
stayed
was
the whole
great.
time.
Yeah, like even into the bonus content.
Yeah. He was like...
He got
bleary-eyed
so
by the
high.
end of it.
No, he was high as a guy.
Well, and he was drinking a lot too, I think.
He was
drinking
amazing.
bourbon.
And he was still making words that were sensible.
Making words.
He was making the
He
words.
made all the words.
Made the best
I
words.
could drink again. We're so close to my house.
And just stumble home.
That's right.
Yeah.
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 Will that be better or worse?
Porque nos dos.
Are you nicer or meaner?
More interrupting?
I'm less restricted. I'm less restricted.
I look forward to you guys meeting Drinking Gumby.
I remember that from when we were still in the old studio.
Mm-hmm.
That was
over by Shannon's. That was all right. Plug your stuff. You and I have a new show.
Yes. It's awesome. Listen to it.
So talk about it.
Okay. He can't. He's eating.
He can't. He's eating.
He's got a mouthful.
It's called Positively Skeptical.
Sorry, that was really bad. It's called Positively Skeptical, and they talk about stuff positively.
No, I think that's a pun. It's a show about pets, right? It's Positively Skeptical. It's like pets who are
that would be
atheists.
even better.
No, that'd be
Skeptical
terrible.
about all the corn gluten in our
I would love
dog
to have a pet
food.
that I could talk about. That would be fun.
Yeah.
You gotta get a dog, dude. You gotta get a dog.
I do have 2 kids. I could talk.
Dogs
I could
suck.
talk.
Get a cat.
He wants a dog.
You know, actually, fun fact.
We have 11 minutes.
Is there going to be time for
You have a
the
big
new
giant
segment?
screen you put that up on.
Forget it.
Positively
Angela's
Skeptical.
doing some
Really good show.
appearances, but
I'll be on CJTR on Sunday at 7, between 7 and 7:30, talking to some young girls who have a show called Radio Kids. And it's going to be fun. We're talking about parapsychology and things like that, astrology.
They're so lucky to get you.
It's going to be good.
So that'll be out on, it'll be airing Sunday.
It'll be airing live Sunday, and then I'm also going to be on the Queen City Improvement Bureau podcast on January the 11th.
Queen City Improvement. Does that include a gallon of gas and matches?
I don't know. They have
It's kind of a funny show.
When you're a guest, you get a certificate.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You got one last time?
Yeah, I did.
You can listen on cjtr.ca if you're not from here. So
CJTR is actually a really
QCIB
cool
comes out in podcast form the following day, I think, or 2 days after it's broadcast on the radio. So
cool. And we also have our GoFundMe still for the conference.
Yes.
We actually got a hell of a donation from Richard.
Yeah.
Richard Lounsbury gave us like $250.
Holy shit.
So we're at $900 now.
So we're at $900. I was starting to get pretty fucking depressed about our progress, but somebody gave us a lot. Richard gave us a lot of money. So if you want to help us out, we actually can do this.
Yeah.
Too bad your brothers won't pony up. Huh?
He's only got one brother with money now. It's fine.
Is it?
Yeah. So you can donate to that by going to gofundme.com/shift-2-reason-2018. No, conference-2018.
They said the dashes.
So many dashes.
What's up with the dashes?
You got to have the dashes. There's too many dashes.
What's up with all these dashes?
What is the deal with dashes?
We're running out of time.
The links are in the show notes. Angela, our closing segment.
I chose an excerpt from a book that I really like called Survivor by Chuck Palahniuk about the last surviving member of a death cult. And he's dictating his life story into the recorder of Flight 2039, cruising on autopilot at 39,000 feet somewhere over the Pacific Ocean. And it's dark. And here we go. After just the first 50 flights of stairs, my breath won't stay inside me long enough to do any good. My feet fly out behind me. My heart is jumping against the ribs. It's behind inside my chest. The insides of my mouth and tongue are thick and stuck together with dried up spit. Where I'm at is one of those stair climbing machines the agent has installed. You climb and climb forever and never get off the ground. You're trapped in your hotel room. It's the mystical sweat lodge experience of our time, the only sort of Indian vision quest we can schedule into our daily planner. Our stairmaster to heaven. Around the 60th floor, sweat is stretching my shirt down to my knees. The lining of my lungs feels the way a ladder looks in nylon stockings, stretched, snagged, a tear in my lungs, a rupture. The way a tire looks before a blowout. That's how my lungs feel. The way it smells when your electric heater or hairdryer burns off a layer of dust. That's how hot my ears feel. Why I'm doing this is because the agent says there's 30 pounds too much of me for him to make famous. If your body is a temple, you can pile up too much deferred maintenance. If your body is a temple, mine was a real fixer-upper. Somehow I should have seen this coming. The same way every generation reinvents Christ, the agent's giving me the same makeover. The agent says nobody is going to worship anybody with my roll of flab around his middle. These days, people aren't going to fill stadiums to get preached at by somebody who isn't beautiful. This is why I'm going nowhere at the rate of 700 calories an hour. Around the 80th floor, my bladder feels nested between the top of my legs when you pull plastic wrap off something in the microwave and the steam sunburns your fingers in an instant. My breath is that hot. You're going up and up and up and not getting anywhere. It's the illusion of progress. What you want to think is your salvation. What people forget is a journey to nowhere starts with a single step, too. It's not as if the great coyote spirit comes to you, but around the 81st floor, these random thoughts from out of the ozone just catch in your head. Silly things the agent told you, now they add up. The way you feel when you're scrubbing with pure ammonia fumes, and right then, while you're scrubbing chicken skin off the barbecue grill, every stupid thing in the world, decaffeinated coffee, alcohol-free beer, Stairmasters, makes perfect sense. Not because you're any smarter, but because the smart part of your brain's on vacation. It's that kind of faux wisdom, that kind of Chinese food enlightenment where you know that 10 minutes after your head clears, you'll forget it all. Those clear plastic bags you get a single serving of honey roasted peanuts in on a plane instead of a real meal. That's how small my lungs feel. After 85 floors, the air feels that thin. Your arms pumping, your feet jammed down on every next step. At this point, your every thought is so profound. The way bubbles form in a pan of water before it comes to a boil, these new insights just appear. Around the 90th floor, every thought is an epiphany. Paradigms are dissolving right and left. Everything ordinary turns into a powerful metaphor. The deeper meaning of everything is right there in your face. And it's all so significant. It's all so deep, so real. Everything the agent's been telling me makes perfect sense. For instance, if Jesus Christ had died in prison with no one watching and with no one there to mourn or torture him, would we be saved? With all due respect. According to the agent, the biggest factor that makes you a saint is the amount of press coverage you get. Around the 100th floor, it all becomes clear. The whole universe, and this isn't just the endorphins talking, any higher than the 100th floor, and you enter a mystical state. The same as if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear you. You realize if no one had been there to witness the agony of Christ, would we be saved? The key to salvation is how much attention you get, how high a profile you get, your audience share, your exposure, your name recognition, your press following, the buzz. Around the 100th floor, the sweat is parting your hair all over. The boring mechanics of how your body works are all too clear. Your lungs are sucking air to put in your blood. Your heart pumps blood to your muscles. Your hamstrings pull themselves short, cramping to pull your legs up behind you. Your quadriceps cramp to put your knees out in front of you. The blood delivers air and food to burn inside the mito whatever in the middle of your every muscle cell. The skeleton is just a way to keep your tissue off the floor. Your sweat is just a way to keep you cool. The revelations come at you from every direction. Around the 105th floor, you can't believe you're the slave to this body, this big baby. You have to keep it fed and put it to bed and take it to the bathroom. You can't believe we haven't invented something better, something not so needy, not so time-consuming. You realize that people take drugs because it's the only real personal adventure left to them in their time-constrained law and order property-lined world. It's only in drugs or death that we see anything new, and death is just too controlling. You realize that there's no point in doing anything if nobody's watching. You wonder if there had been a low turnout at the crucifixion, would they have rescheduled? You realize the agent was right. You've never seen a crucifix with a Jesus who wasn't almost naked. You've never seen a fat Jesus or a Jesus with body hair. Every crucifix you've ever seen, the Jesus could be shirtless and modeling designer jeans or men's cologne. Life is every way the agent said. You realize that if no one's watching, you might as well stay home, play with yourself, watch broadcast television. It's around the 110th floor that you realize that if you're not on videotape, or better yet, live on satellite hookup in front of the whole world watching, you don't exist. You're that tree falling in the forest that nobody gives a rat's ass about. It doesn't matter if you do anything. If nobody notices, your life will add up to a big zero, nada, cipher. Fake or not, it's these kinds of big truths that swarm up inside you. You realize that our mistrust of the future makes it hard to give up the past. We can't give up our concept of who we were, all those adults playing archaeologists at yard sales, looking for the childhood artifacts, board games, Candyland, Twister. They're terrified. Trash becomes holy relics. Mystery date, hula hoops, our way of getting nostalgic for what we just threw in the trash. It's all because we're afraid to evolve, grow, change, lose weight, reinvent ourselves, adapt. That's what the agent says to me on the Stairmaster. He's yelling at me, adapt! Everything's accelerated except me and my sweaty body with its bowel movements and body hair, my moles and yellow toenails. And then I realize I'm stuck with my body, and it's already falling apart. My backbone feels hammered out of hot iron. My arms swing thin and wet on each side of me. Since change is constant, you wonder if people crave death because it's the only way they can get anything really finished. The agent's yelling that no matter how great you look, your body is just something you wear to accept your Academy Award. Your hand is just so you can hold your Nobel Prize. Your lips are only there for you to air kiss a talk show host. And you might as well look great. It's around the 120th floor you have to laugh. You're going to lose it anyway. Your body. You're already losing it. It's time you bet everything. This is why when the agent comes to you with anabolic steroids, you say yes. You say yes to the back-to-back tanning sessions. Electrolysis? Yes. Teeth capping? Yes. Dermabrasion? Yes. Chemical peels? According to the agent, the secret to getting famous is you just keep saying yes.
All right, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. Thanks to our financial supporters, Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Lachlan, Lisa, Magnus, Michael, Nathan, Positively Skeptical, Rob, Stephanie, and the Utah Outcasts. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. You can join us every second week when we broadcast live on brainstormradio.net. Our next show is on January 19th. And our guest will be Baba Brinkman, the rapper who spreads science and critical thinking through his music. Thanks to Keith for joining us. And you can find more about his show at facebook.com/notanotheratheistpodcast or their website, notanotheratheistpodcast.wordpress.com. I'll put links in the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com, and the notes on brainstormblog.net are still a work in progress. Yeah. Anybody who wants to help is willing to, we are accepting applications for helpers. Thanks. Thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Alex Capper Murdoch for our outro music, or for doing the voiceover for the intro and some of our ads. And thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff over at loststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.